It might not have the strongest action scenes that we've grown accustomed to with the later films, but Terminator 1 is a classic with horror elements that are perfectly executed. And the dynamic between a literal powerful killing machine and the weaker but strong-willed and resourceful human it was programmed to kill, in a conflict that has implications for the survival of the entire human race, is an avenue in storytelling that no film after it was able to completely replicate. And that's why I believe it should go in S tier.
Joe, I swear to God, you're on drugs with that shitty take. Are you kidding me? S tier? I refuse to put this movie in the same tier as Terminator 2. It's a mid-movie that's half build up with the pacing of dog diarrhea, and half Halloween ripoff with an Austrian bodybuilder playing Michael Myers. You think this shit goes anywhere above B tier?
No way you're getting on Terminator 1 being half build up when you can say the exact same thing for 2.
The difference between Terminator 2 and Terminator 1's build up is that Terminator 2 builds up to the fucking T-1000. What does Terminator 1 build up to? Oh, that's right. Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor hiding in a fucking parking garage. That scene was so fucking boring it put me to sleep, which is why I think you like it so much, Sleepy Joe.
Shut the hell up, Donald. And if your takeaway from that parking garage scene is that it's boring, then you truly have zero taste.
Joe, we've been at this for 45 minutes, and at this rate, we'll be here all night. Can we just put this movie in A tier and move on?
Fine, I'll accept it, but I'm not happy about it.
Okay, A tier it is. Moving on, we have Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Easiest fucking S tier of my life.
This movie isn't S tier. What are you on about?
Joe, what the fuck are you doing?
This is just a solid A tier movie, Jack.
I swear to God, Joe, if you don't stop trolling me and put this movie in S tier...
A is as high as I'll go.
You're getting revenge on me for not putting your precious Terminator 1 in S tier, so now you're taking it out on the godly masterpiece that is Terminator 2.
Look, I like Terminator 2 a hell of a lot, but it's not a controversial take that the departure from the original horror elements present in Terminator 1 makes Judgment Day feel a bit hollow.
That dementia-riddled brain of yours apparently doesn't even recognize the monumental W that Terminator 2 Judgment Day is. This movie took the few things that were good in the puddle of mid that was Terminator 1 and made it better.
Joe, he has a point there. Terminator 2 has great action scenes that have you on the edge of your seat knowing the stakes. The effects were groundbreaking for their time and still hold up to even today's standards. The plot is well structured and ties everything together with what might be the best plot twist in the history of cinema, with Arnold turning out to be the good guy after terrorizing Sarah Connor in the first movie.
And don't forget the dialogue. Oh my fucking God, the dialogue is top-notch. So many iconic lines are from this movie.
Each and every one of those iconic lines came from Terminator 1 Donald, the movie you accused of being mid.
Who fucking cares? Do you think I want to hear the line, "Come with me if you want to live," from a loser like Kyle Reese? Or from a legend like Uncle fucking Bob?
I mean, this movie's plot is a masterpiece that every future Terminator film uses as a template to this day. Although I do feel it gets a little too much love compared to the first film.
Barack, I swear to fucking God, if you put this movie anywhere other than S tier, I will make January 6th look like a fucking potluck in the park.
Will you let me finish? Although I do feel a little bad that Judgment Day is the only movie that most Terminator fans will remember the most. It being that good of a movie is why it earns that much respect. And to put this movie in any tier below S tier would be sacrilege. So S tier is exactly where it's going.
God damn it.
Now we're moving on to Terminator 3, and guys, I think this is a clear-cut D tier if I've ever seen one.
Hold the fuck up, Barry. I'm not letting that one slide through.
Donald, now you're the one who's trolling. There's no fucking way that Terminator 3 is the hill you're choosing to die on.
Me and Terminator 3 have something in common. We've both been targeted for slander by the fake news media, poser Terminator fans, and Reddit geeks who have too much time on their hands. I'm not saying Terminator 3 is the best movie in the franchise, but it's certainly better than what people give it credit for. And with the hindsight of every Terminator film released after it, I've concluded that those pieces of shit movies make this look like fucking Citizen Kane.
Donald, your argument for this movie being anything other than D tier can't be that every movie after it is ass.
My argument is exactly that, plus the TX being a fucking monster of a villain while also being an absolute smoke show.
Honestly, Donald the TX is where the movie lost me. Compared to the T-1000 before it, it had better weapons but was worse in every other facet. I never feared it for a second, and even though the whole take control of other machines things was somewhat interesting, it doesn't do much to propel it from being kind of mid overall.
Obama, stop hating. We know damn well if she drone strike that animal hospital instead of wrecking it trying to kill Kate, you'd think she was the best villain in the franchise.
Funny thing you bring up that animal hospital scene. It's easily the worst first encounter with the Skynet Terminator in the first 3 movies.
Stop the cap. That scene was fucking epic and you know it.
Yeah, it's so epic that the entire scene was just a retread of Sarah Connor running from Arnold in the first movie, but with the pacing of a clogged artery. Not to mention what they do with it is lock up Kate in the back of a truck because they can't think of any other way to move the plot forward than to give the stupidest fucking reason the TX finds them.
Neither of you so far have said anything about the movie being bad that makes any sense. What's the point in pointing out plot holes in a fucking Terminator movie? The plot holes are the fucking point. It's like walking into a Burger King and whining about the stale bun and the booty cheeks that they call chicken nuggets. The fuck else were you expecting?
But even by Terminator standards, the story leaves much to be desired. Turning John Connor into a loser drifter is a characterization that clashes with the rest of the movie. It's promptly forgotten about the minute the movie's plot takes over, and the only thing that matters from that point on is rehashing the same stuff we saw in Terminator 2, but executed and paced more poorly.
Even though Terminator 3 had the unenviable task of being after Terminator 2, it still managed to do everything the previous movies did, but worse.
Don't you fucking dare use Judgment Day to back up your shitty take when you're the one who is talking the most shit on it in this call, Joe. You fucking contrarian.
You're one of the 5 people on planet Earth with the gall to say this is a good movie, but you're calling me a fucking contrarian? What's next? Are you going to say Terminator 3 is better than Terminator 1?
It abso-fucking-lutely is, Sleepy Joe.
Fuck you, Donald. No, it isn't.
I'd rather watch an action-filled thriller that is Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines rather than the sloppy, boring mess that is Terminator 1. Terminator 3 has great action scenes from the cemetery chase to the bathroom fight between the two Terminators.
That bathroom fight was goofy as fuck.
Shut the fuck up, Joe.
While on the subject of goofy as fuck, the humor of this movie is so cringe-inducing. So many moments like that talk to the hand bullshit are about as funny as a vasectomy.
You lack the cultural awareness and refined humor to find that moment funny, Joe.
I don't care. As long as I'm still breathing on this earth, this movie is not going above C tier, and I advocate for this shit to go straight into F tier.
No fucking way.
This movie is hot-ass, Donald.
Fuck you. No fucking way this movie is as bad as Genesis. B tier is the lowest I'm going for this movie, and you can take that to the same fucking bank that your son Hunter took all that coke money to.
For the sake of moving on with the rest of this list, and because I also think this is an extremely flawed movie that does have 1 or 2 good moments, I'm putting this movie in C tier.
Bullshit.
Okay, now we're on to Terminator Salvation. Any thoughts?
The first time I watched Terminator Salvation in theaters, I was greatly disappointed in the direction it went. But over time, and by that I mean after I finished watching Genesis, I've come to terms with accepting that it's the best Terminator movie after the first 2.
Joe, I'm willing to forgive that subtle dig you took just there at Terminator 3 because so far your take on Salvation is actually the smartest thing you've said today. I mean, Terminator Salvation goes in a different direction compared to previous Terminator movies, but what it does with that is honestly not a bad reinvention of the Terminator formula up to that point.
Gentlemen, I don't like this movie at all. I think it's hot donkey ass.
What?
You're trolling.
This movie took the Terminator formula we know and love and threw it into a setting where it made absolutely no fucking sense.
I can't believe what I'm hearing from you.
He is trolling us. Any minute now, Obama is going to say psych, and we're going to have a good laugh about it and put this movie in B tier where it belongs.
It should go into D tier.
God fucking damn it.
Name one thing you didn't like about Salvation.
Marcus as a whole.
You choose the most badass character in the movie as the thing you don't like about it.
If you mean badasses and he's bad and he's ass, then yes.
Uncultured swine.
Tell me, Donald, what's cultured about retreading the same old story about a good Terminator, but, oh, wait a second, he's supposed to be the bad Terminator because we have to have some way to shoehorn Skynet into what looks like every other bland late 2000s to early 2010s action movie, with a bland color palette and generic random action bullshit, and where every character talks like fucking Christian Bale. And speaking of Christian Bale, I hate his version of John Connor with a burning passion.
And here I thought Joe had the worst take on this tier list, wanting Terminator 1 to go into S tier.
Fuck you, Donald.
But here you come, Barry, saying that Christian Bale did a bad job as John Connor. Do you get off on being so wrong?
Nothing about him convinces me that he should be the leader of the resistance. At the start of the movie, he's just the stereotypical stoic asshole who bucks authority and magically turns into a good commanding officer because this franchise spent 30 years building him up as the leader in the fight for humanity's survival. And the first thing they do when given the opportunity to show the fans the culmination of all of that hype is they give the role to Christian Bale, who's as bland as a fucking tax document. The worst part is he's actually the best actor in this movie by far, which is truly a tragic thought.
It's not 2013 anymore, Barry. You no longer have to pretend you don't like this movie.
The action scenes in this movie alone put it in C tier, Barack.
If we judged every Terminator film by the quality of its action scenes, then even shit like Genesis averages out to C tier.
Hold the fuck up.
What a horse shit argument.
Everything else about Genesis drags its sorry ass back down the list, while the second half of Salvation drags it up into B tier.
We already have Terminator 3 in C tier, and Salvation is definitely better than that film.
I hate to admit it, but you're right. Obama, either you put Salvation in B tier, or you move Terminator 3 up the list into B tier.
See what you got us into, Barry?
I'm not falling for that so easily, Donald. Neither movie is that good in my opinion. However, I will say I'd rewatch Salvation at least for the action scenes, while I can't think of any reason I'd want to watch Terminator 3 again. I'm putting Salvation above Terminator 3 in C tier.
This list is so fucked.
Next up we have Terminator Genesis.
Imagine being so bad of a movie you not only torch your own sequel hopes, but kill the hope of anyone continuing the franchise as a whole.
Absolutely agree. This movie was so fucking bad it sparked my love of walls.
How the fuck did this movie do that?
After I saw who the villain of this movie was, I wanted to build a wall around the homes of this film's screenwriters so they never fucking write any of that horse shit again.
This movie was an absolute train wreck that threatened the continuation of the entire franchise. As much shit as I give Terminator Salvation, Genesis makes it look like Shakespeare. I don't know what crack they were smoking coming up with the time travel in this movie.
There's an obvious dig at Hunter's coke addiction here, but even he would have the self-respect not to buy from whoever the screenwriters was buying their coke from. Who thought it was a good fucking idea to make John Connor the villain?
The entire time me and Barry were watching this movie in the Oval Office, I couldn't help but think that if it had any of the charm of the original trilogy, then maybe this might be a decent movie. But what we got instead was a disorganized shit show of a plot that true Terminator fans didn't want.
This movie did bonkers at the box office, so let's give some credit where it's due.
To market this absolute turd to over $400 million worldwide requires skills only learned from the fine institution known as Trump University.
Shut the fuck up, Sleepy Joe.
I'm running out of ways to shit on this movie. Can we put it in F tier so we can move on to Dark Fate?
Yeah, let's do that. F tier it is. Now finally here we have Dark Fate. To be honest, guys, I didn't watch this movie, so I'll defer to you to rank this movie.
This shit stain on the franchise is going into F tier along with Genesis. This movie gave every single Terminator fan a giant middle finger in the first 5 fucking minutes. I don't even know who gives a shit about the rest of this movie. You know what? Fuck it. Barack, make a new tier under F tier just for Dark Fate.
Holy shit, Donald, you really hate this movie?
I am a John Connor stan. He is the best character in this franchise, hands down, and they fucking kill him off before I even sat down with my fucking popcorn.
Donald, you have to give this movie the same benefit of the doubt you wanted to give Genesis. They brought James Cameron back into the fray as well as Linda Hamilton, and she definitely brings a massive presence into the movie that was missing from Genesis.
Why do you think I give a shit about James and Linda returning? This movie retconned everything that happened after Terminator 2. And while I don't give a shit that Genesis is no longer part of the original timeline, Terminator 3 and Salvation do not deserve that. And the fact that even with James Cameron and Linda Hamilton returning, this movie was still mid at best, with nothing outside of the original cast meaning anything to anybody, it's safe to say that the magic is truly gone from this series.
Stop being so dramatic, Donnie. This movie actually took some elements from Genesis that didn't work, like incorporating multiple Terminators in the plot, and made it work. Plus, it had some killer CGI. I mean, did you see the de-aging they had in the first scene?
Joe, I swear to Jesus Christ Almighty, if you remind me of that scene one more fucking time.
Donald, this is a way better movie than Genesis.
Isn't saying much at all.
So I think it should go into C tier.
What?
I said this movie should go into C tier.
Donald, are you there?
Yeah, Barack, I'm still here. I was just sending out the coordinates for the secret White House bunker to Al-Qaeda.
Wait, what the fuck?
Donald, what the fuck?
Because at least Al-Qaeda would have the decency to put this shit heap where it belongs, rather than entertain the mere fucking notion that Dark Fate is on the same tier as Terminator 3 and Salvation.
Name one thing that Dark Fate does objectively worse than both of those movies.
They fucking killed John Connor.
Anything other than that, please, for the love of God.
For the rest of eternity, that's the only thing I need. Did you not hear me when I said I only watched 5 minutes of that shit?
Wait, I thought you were doing a bit. You were serious?
Of course I was serious.
How can you say that it's a definitive F tier if you never even finished the movie?
Any movie that kills off one of the main draws of its franchise doesn't deserve to be finished. Would you watch a Spider-Man movie where they killed off Peter or Miles and you spent the rest of it following around the SWAT team trying to take on the fucking Sinister Six? Besides, if this movie had anything else worth watching after they shotgunned both John Connor and my hopes and dreams, then Connor's death wouldn't be the only fucking thing people remember.
People do remember how good the Rev 9 is, Donald. Don't try to pull that bullshit on me. Hands down the strongest Terminator we've ever seen, and pulls off the fright factor that hasn't been seen since Terminator 2. That doesn't get you hype?
Whatever. If I want to see cool shit with the Rev 9, I'll watch the clips on YouTube. Fuck the rest of the movie.
While you two were bickering like school children, I actually had enough time here to watch Dark Fate, and honestly, while it's not as bad as Donald thinks it is, it's not as good as Joe thinks it is either. Linda Hamilton was nice to see on screen again, and Joe, like you said, she adds a presence missing from every film post too. The Rev 9 honestly impressed the hell out of me, but so much of the plot is take it or leave it. And with what they did at the beginning, which honestly, if I were still in office, I'd make a federal offense to even think about. This movie disappointed me a touch more than Genesis did. So my verdict will be D tier.
A fair take, Barry.
All right, looks like this list is finished.
I still feel like Terminator 1 is too low.
Be glad that's not any fucking lower.